We've
Welcome to
arrived.
another episode of Feral Polymaths, our wonderfully inconsistent podcast that only gets recorded when we finally get around to it. You can visit
That's right.
feralpolymaths.com if you want to listen to other episodes or you want to read blog posts that we're slowly shitting out. And we also
Yeah,
have a
we are
link to
both
our
incomplete and inconsistent.
today's episode's about Godel's theorem and
Totally appropriate.
incompleteness and inconsistency, which is just it's our lives these days. And we have our
Yeah, we're
YouTube
good at that.
channel that you can get to on our website. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're just hearing our voices. If you want to see our faces, you can watch videos
Our ponytails.
Our ponytails are. I'm here with this fake background that reminds me of Oregon because I live in Nevada now, but I used to live in Oregon, and I'm going to Oregon next week because my oldest kid's turning 20 and lives there.
Yay!
And so I'm getting back in the Oregon vibe here with my rainy tree situations in my background.
And, with the hazy sky.
And then I fade in and out.
No more
because
sunshine.
Backgrounds aren't perfect. No more sunshine.
Mine is just messy.
Marylea is in her standard messy room. And
That's pretty much what I've got. Plastic on the windows.
Yeah. So we'll start with our usual first I feel like I do this every episode. Yeah, I think it's been more than a month or a month since our last recording. We at the beginning were like, we're gonna do this weekly.
But it feels like it's weekly.
Turns out time just like zips by at this like lightning pace with all sorts of life shit going, and it's like becomes impossible. So monthly is about what we're doing, and maybe we'll do more, or
that's good.
We're just riding this wave.
Well, we might become.
Where it takes us.
I mean, we're bootstrapping ourselves with this stuff. We're like creating the space that we need to be intellectual, and it will only breed more.
While we're flying it is the analogy.
That's correct. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I've heard that analogy.
Amazing that we're in the air
at certain places recently. So, building the plane while flying it. We haven't died yet, but we'll come back to the topic of death later. So we should start with our what annoyed you this week or month. Do you want to start, Marylea? Or should I start with my tooth saga?
Oh, I do want to hear this tooth saga. I can tell you what annoyed me this week, and it would be both what annoyed me and what
annoyed you and what you learned, and then I'll do what annoyed me and what I learned
together.
Okay, here we go.
Because I obviously learned all of string theory in one night, because you can totally do that. Because I went to the World Science Festival in New York, which was really fun, and they brought a Harvard physicist, a Fields medalist, and a Nobel Prize winner to all come explain to us the state of string theory. And what was lovely is they had lots of beautiful graphics explaining the regular understanding of space-time and its rigidity can just be mapped on as long as you make all the vertices, these little teeny tiny multi-dimensional strings, and it all works out, and it just looks kind of rigid on the big scale, but when you get really tiny, everything works by strings, and it's cool. All consistent, all amazing, super cool, and we just can't prove anything yet because the tininess.
Marylea's internet has gotten the best of her again. She appears to have frozen on the screen. I suspect she will disappear and reappear shortly. So until she does, I'll keep the story going. So I will save the tooth saga for when Marylea is back. I will tell you what I learned this week, because she already knows this one. What I learned just now. So my husband and I, we put off our taxes. We did the whole thing where we did the extension until mid-October, and now we're like, we should probably get to that. And so we were getting to that, and he called our tax person last night, or not last night, Wednesday, and then he went to follow up today and discovered she died that night. So that's what I learned this week, is our tax person died, and now we need a new tax person. All
Oh
right,
my
it
God.
looks like
I'm
Marylea is
back.
back. So I
But
just
keep
did
telling the
my
story.
what I learned this week. I've saved my what I hate because you want to hear that story.
I do want to hear that
And
story.
so now we're going to go back to Marylea's
Oh God.
story about, so you were there. You were learning about strings. They're very, very
Yes.
tiny.
So
You can't prove anything. That's where I think you left
yeah,
off.
because they're so tiny, it's really, really hard, is what they're saying. Not that it's not true, because it did so much cool things for math. So there you go. That's why. So let's say that we believe that and we admire these people, and we come out of the theater and we're super excited because we learned string theory and we've got a brain. So we kind of fangirl our way up to the Fields medalist and be like, it's about my daughter, and get completely glossed over once the full picture of middle-aged mom is taken in.
What are
And
you doing here? Middle-aged moms don't go to string theory lectures.
it hurt. It definitely hurt. I was like, God damn it, you're at the freaking, I know you. You're at the Institute for Advanced Study. I've been to the Institute for Advanced Study. I've talked to
It's
another
been
field
a year,
medalist at the
but
Institute for Advanced
still.
Study. So, what are you so special? I didn't say any of that. I just blinked in
Nodded
horror
afterwards, after the horror left.
and slunk away, realizing that middle-aged mom does not look like someone who could ever understand string theory, which is
It could be in
fine.
how you dress. You gotta dress differently, I bet. And if you did
I
you could
definitely was
get
not
your
dressed
cardigan and
my
I
pearls.
don't know. Yeah, exactly. So you gotta look professorial.
I
See,
should have been more professorial-ish, but I was
not
totally.
I ran out of the house like this, and I had my kids today.
Yep, because if you look like that, no one thinks you know anything, which is, I guess, sometimes true because, God, momness can totally eat up your brain. But that's fine. It was all right. It was just annoying, which was what annoyed me this
Yeah,
week. It's like,
hurt your soul.
exactly. But that's all right. But now I want to know about Dental Saga because I knew
Dental
about the
saga.
death,
Well, see,
which was also
anyone
very
who's read
dramatic.
our blog seen my hysterical rantings about I just don't even care. Everybody sucks, and I can't trust anyone, and they all just mess with my mouth in different ways, and
Well, it's
they're
not. It's
bad to
not.
me, and they don't care that they hurt me.
I don't think it's
So
hysterical. I think it's. I think it's like they they totally abused you in a totally anti-feminist way, and that you should sue their asses, and then not win because they
and then
don't
not win and
defend
just lose a lot of money and trying to get
them.
that'll be fun. It'll be exciting. Ooh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I got my wisdom teeth out in um July 8th and was
Oh,
initially told you'll be fine in 3 days. You go back to work. It's gonna be fine. But it was not, and it was I don't know what they did to my mouth when they were ripping my teeth out. I was unconscious at the time. My husband, who was in the waiting room, said he heard me wake up and screaming at some point. I don't
oh my
remember this,
God.
but apparently it scared some teenager in the waiting room who ran away. I was like, okay, that's fun. But yeah, I go home and everything wears off, and one side of my mouth is just bleeding a ton, and within a few, they give you pain medicine to last for 2 days because of the opioid crisis. We can't possibly give anyone anything to help with their pain anymore. We just have to let them
No,
suffer.
just suffer,
So
especially if you're a woman.
so well, I mean, there's always the ibuprofen and Tylenol cycle. You just gotta overlap them and just constantly until you get
Take
the
them.
acid reflux, and then you're taking the whatever the omeprazole pills also, and then you're like, oh, but and that's just to barely exist because it
Wait,
hurt so freaking bad. And I'm fairly certain, I mean, I don't even know, but I think I had dry sockets on one side.
Well, yeah.
And like extreme pain. And I had like the one side that keeps being problematic, that's the side that swelled up super big. I think they broke some stuff in there that healed weird.
I think they
But who
did.
knows? Because, but yeah, like we had tried to call them and being like, you know, this is like too much pain. I can't do anything. I can't think or exist. And I'm just half-assing at work because it's like I can't, it hurts so freaking bad. And they're like, that's normal. Like, but I don't think it is. But whatever. I just was like, screw it. I guess I'm just suffering. And it went on for like, I think it took about 3 weeks before I was really to a point where I wasn't in like constant agony. And then it kind of faded off. And then a new fun thing happened. On the bottom, on the inside, like the tongue side, I started getting these bony protrusions, right?
Ow, ow.
And like I called someone and they're like, oh, you know, sometimes bone spicules will just come out on their own. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is attached to my jaw. And then I'm feeling on one side and there's like definitely this weird bump, like the thing had been broken and misplaced. And I'm like, and it had got to the point where it was actually poking through the gums and hurting like hell and almost poking through on the other side. And I'm like, it's scraping my tongue. It's making a giant ulcer. It hurts constantly. And
yeah, that's not what you signed up for, getting your wisdom tooth out.
I went to a new dentist, and apparently it was a new dentist. I swear this person may have been just out of dental school. And she was like, oh, yes, it's just bone spicules. I can just pull those out. I'm like, sure it's not attached to my jaw? She's like, oh, I'll just pull those out. I'm like, okay, go for it. Go for it. Let's see how that works. I was just ready for her to be like, whoa, fuck, that's attached. But what happened is she left the room, and then later someone else came in and was like, actually, we're referring you to an oral surgeon. I'm like, how come? Well, nobody really had an answer. I'm like, okay, whatever. I did get into the oral surgeon the very next day. Again, this appeared to be a person just out of school.
Oh, God.
And the person assisting him, oh my God. So I wrote all about this, how like she didn't know how to do the numbing thing and like didn't actually numb one side of my mouth. And I was like, I was in a like, fuck it, do whatever mood. And
You're
so
like,
I was like, I'm just going to see how bad they fuck this up and we'll go from there. But I was like, it was really traumatic, but I freaking soldiered through that. They basically opened up the gums, shaved down the bone, closed the gums back up. And all was fine on one side of my mouth, but on the other side of my mouth, the one that had been a problem the other time, the one that I think the bone was broken on, it hurt like hell, kept hurting like hell, and developed this giant white patch on like the gum line side, like where the bone had sort of been poking through. And I had like tried to ask the surgeon about it. He's like, that's just the scab. It's just healing. I'm like, but it freaking hurts like hell. And
yeah, what does that mean?
Like, and I think it's like, I don't know, man. And I was just like, well, you know, you could call the office and I can see you next week, but it's normal. And I'm like, fuck it, I give up. I'm not going in. I'm not going to go to the office so that you can look at it and be like, yep, that's normal. And then I was like, why the fuck did I come here? So I was like, screw it. I guess I'm just living with this now. And now we're about 2 weeks out from the surgery from that. That white patch is still there. It's like rock hard and it goes really deep. Like I tap on it. It seems like it goes to the bone. I think maybe it will fall out eventually, but I don't know for sure.
Wow.
So that's what annoyed me this month.
That's a big thing to be annoyed by. That is way more hurty than hurting my feelings.
I don't know, man. Feelings can be pretty intense too. But the thing about this stuff like this is I feel like I can't trust, and we had this talk before. Yeah. We were talking about people
trusting authority.
I feel like you can't trust professionals. Like you want to assume they know more about something than you do, and you can let them do shit, and it will make sense. But I don't feel like that with dental people at all lately. I feel like all I get is like, we just fucked your shit up, and it will probably eventually heal, maybe.
Well, because the body is robust.
Because the body eventually heals, but like, why am I doing so much intermediate suffering? And is
Yeah,
that
and why
just
is it
okay
being
now?
ignored? Yeah.
Am I
Well,
just
yeah.
a whiner and complainer? Maybe I just whine a lot and I should be ashamed of my whining. I don't know.
No. Well, I did, yeah.
Anyway, so
Serial,
that's my
the new,
excitement.
I mean, the new Serial podcast is all about women who went for
Yeah.
IVF and basically did it with no pain relief because the nurse was stealing their fentanyl. And the thing that's weird about if you go through the whole series, the thing that's incredible about it is that all of these women are reporting that that's what's happening to them, or that they're
That they're
in
like,
severe
there's too
pain.
much pain and it
And
hurts
that,
too much. And
and it's not that anyone is like, oh, maybe that's the case, or maybe we should be doing something differently for you. It's all like, well, we gave it to you, so you must be fucked up. Your body must be fucked up. You just have to do it. Sorry. See ya. And even after they found out that the fentanyl was gone, complete denial because it's Yale. It was a Yale hospital, and it's just like a wall of you can't touch us,
Mhm.
because we
Yeah,
did.
we've been doing all these IVF procedures and giving you
Mhm.
saline instead of pain meds, and everyone's
Yeah,
complaining that it hurts, and they're just like, no, we're
whatever.
giving you the medicine. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, and the most shocking
Okay.
conclusion, and the thing that was so depressing and makes it so like, well, I really can't tell you to sue because what's going to do, is that when these women decide, they have a lawsuit that they could pursue, right? They have that, but the prospects for it are so grim precisely because the standard of care argument makes it such that, like, you compare it to any other professional in the same position, would they do anything about it? And if you look around, most of them would have done shit for it anyway. So it's kind of like,
Orthodontals suck. So that's the standard of care.
so that's the standard of care for women. Now, if you like fuck up some guy's testicles when you're doing a prostate exam or something like that, you're in big trouble. But God forbid, you pay any attention to women's pain. It's like,
Yeah, it's crazy making, because it's like, I'm pretty sure I'm feeling extreme pain that I can't think and do stuff, but they're telling me that's normal and fine. So maybe
so
I'm
I
just
guess I'll
whining.
just,
I
and
guess
we're
I just live like this now.
Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
totally trained to take that on. I mean, like from childhood, like, oh, I don't know. Especially, I think if you grew up the way we did, it's a very suck it up kind of attitude that's passed on to
And
us.
there's something to be said for sucking it up in certain
There
situations.
definitely
Like,
is.
people definitely need to suck it up, I think, for a lot of things in life. I try to teach
Yeah,
that to my children, by
telling them to suck it
just
up.
by telling them to suck it up, but by telling them sometimes things are hard and you have to do hard things, and you
Yep,
can do those hard things
and
and you
you
will
come
be
out the other
okay.
side.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess like the argument also is like these women continued doing it in spite of the pain because they wanted to have a kid, and then they ended up getting what they wanted. They got a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
who's the loser? you know
They just had to
um
suffer some psychological trauma. It's fine, it's fine.
Whatever. Now they don't trust doctors ever again in their entire lives.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's what
But
I hate about this, is I feel like I can't trust dentists.
yeah.
And like, that's fine for me. I could just be like my independent adult who will never go to a dentist again and let all my teeth just rot out of my head because it's easier. But I have
Mm,
kids, and I really should be like making sure their dental care is seen to. But I keep,
right.
I'm like, ugh,
Yeah, it's
God,
frightening.
what do I do?
Yeah.
The 16-year-old has braces on. He's still got to go back to that office, I guess, and keep getting
Oh,
them adjusted.
Jesus.
Um, so that's fun.
That is really scary.
All
God
righty,
damn.
now let's pivot into Godel's theorem.
Yay! Well, he was a lifelong hypochondriac, so
There you go. There you go.
there you go. I
Just like
mean,
all women are.
just like all women are. Maybe maybe he was being ignored. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I learned while I was refreshing my mind about Gödel is that the end of his life and his mental health was horrendous. It was so freaking heartbreaking. I mean, he basically starved himself at some point because he just didn't trust anyone or anything to eat. So that was sad. But maybe we should start by saying who Kurt Gödel is and why he's important. Um,
All right, I'll take it away. Take it away, Marylea. Who is Kurt
okay,
Gödel and why is he important?
so Kurt Gödel, he is in Vienna, living a wonderful life in the Vienna Circle. He is a mathematician, a prodigy, actually. And he is significant because in his thesis, actually, he ended up producing these two incredible theorems that take basically this project to formalize logic and to formalize the underpinnings of mathematics and turn the entire project on its head by saying that mathematics is a project, logic, that uh, basically mathematical logic is either incomplete or inconsistent in the first place, and that any system based on axioms cannot prove its own consistency. And between the two of those, you basically are left with this incredible the aftermath of that is like, holy crap, what does that mean? We now know that mathematics is never going to be based pure, that any system that we can build will never be able to produce all of the results that as we produce results, it's not because the system is perfect. It's not something that's all encompassing and that is not vulnerable to inconsistency with itself. And it's a completely magical result. It's also completely magical the way he did it. And the history of it is really strange as well. Like, I mean, the whole I don't know how much to go into with this because
Keep going.
I mean, so if you back up a little bit, you have this thing called the Principia Mathematica, which was a project of Russell and Whitehead. And they created this book, which was meant to like lay out the axioms of mathematics. It was meant to lay out all of the things that you would need in order to do all of the math forever and ever and ever, which is incredible. And related to what we were talking about before with these new ideas of infinity and higher orders of infinity, you end up with these really weird and uncomfortable ideas of like, okay, certain things become really illogical when you go into the infinite, right? You can end up with really weird results just because you have infinity available. Sort of like in physics where you get these weird ideas about the entire universe being able to have anything happen because it's infinite, right? And some people
Yeah.
really, really believe in that. And some people are like, why? So I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit. Like what kinds of things do people say in physics when they're like, well, if the universe is infinite, you can have.
Well, I mean, so some people will say things like every possible thing that can occur or exist will somewhere. And I
Yeah,
don't
like,
think that follows.
oh yeah, because the
Um,
universe is infinite, you will definitely have at least one iteration where you and your friend are living on a desert island sipping martinis right
yeah.
now at this
So,
moment,
so
especially
it's
if you have
like this
multiple worlds.
this conflation of infinity with everything. And
Right.
something that's infinite doesn't encompass everything. I mean, you can even see that with just number systems, right?
Hmm.
The natural numbers are countably infinite, but they
Yes,
don't contain fractions. They don't contain
exactly.
everything, right?
Right.
So I used to have this issue when I was a child. I always remember thinking about this in car rides. Like I'd be like,
Mhm.
well, I can think. I cannot find the ends of my thoughts, So my thoughts might be infinite, but if my thoughts are infinite, everybody's thoughts are infinite, and there's only one infinity, so all the thoughts are the same thoughts, so everybody's in my head. And then I would look for them.
You're like,
But that was wrong. I was incorrect.
That's actually way more profound than what I would do. I would sit in biology class and try to like imagine everybody, the rhythm of everyone's heartbeat.
Making
Ooh,
music. It's like
it's
a whole
all our
symphony in
heartbeats.
here. Oh my God,
Whoa.
so many patterns overlapping.
And then I was like, oh, that would just be like not very interesting. That's like static.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so the grand attempt. So this, once this exists, there's this idea that this project that a guy named Hilbert really pushed, that okay, now that we have a way of formalizing things, now that we have set theory, now that we have ways of talking about numbers that are completely abstractified and on like first order basis, we should be able to do that with everything. And if we can do that with everything, then we will know for a fact that the things that we prove with our axioms make freaking sense. They are based on logic. They are not just a bunch of calculations leading to nothing. We will know for certain that we are on the right track. Okay? And that's the project. That's why you have this blossoming of logic, you know, throughout the Vienna and everywhere in Europe and in the UK as well. And you have this really, strong drive to solve this. And Gödel just, he does this beautiful thing. And many people kind of model it on like, many people relate it to Russell's paradox. Do you remember Russell's paradox? Like the set of all things that are members of themselves, or what about what about like the
is it like the idea you can make like a statement that can't be proven or
yeah, so like for instance, it's sort of like the
this statement is false.
the statement is false, and then the statement on the other side of this card is false, and then you have right on the other side of the card, the statement is on the other side of this card is true, and you keep on flipping the card around and you're like, oh my god, what's true? I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
The way that Russell paradox works is I think you make a set, does the set of all, if you were to make a set of all the things that are true, like, and you found something else, would it, or let me think. Oh god, I'm totally forgetting Russell's paradox. Do you have
All right, we're Googling.
Russell's paradox? I mean, it should be easy. I know, like the set of all sets that, I get it.
Okay,
the set of all sets that are not a member of themselves. How about that one?
The set of all sets
is the set of all sets that are not a member of itself, a member of itself. So you have R, the set of all sets that are a member of itself. Is that set a member of itself or not?
Yeah.
So if it's a set of all sets that are not a member of itself and it's a member of itself, then it can't be a member of itself because it's the set of all sets that are not a member of itself. And if you take it out, then it's not the set of the all sets that are members of themselves because it's not a member of itself.
Exactly.
Because you took it out. So that's Russell's paradox. And the question is like, so the way that Gödel kind of structures his proof is that he creates these kind of alphabets. He takes arithmetic and what are called the primitive recursive functions. So like he makes these ways of talking about things being a member of themselves or not. And he kind of names everything. And then he asks the question, well, if I had a set of all of if I was able to encompass all of the things that are provable, and note that he says provable, not true, provable within the system. And that's what keeps you away from like a Russell's paradox or like a truth paradox type of thing, or Zeno's paradox type of thing. He's what's provable within the system. And he's constantly able to find the set, the thing that should be provable that is not in the set of provable things. So it's by a proof by construction. He constructs the thing that can't go in the set, and then he finds out it's not in the set, and then you're like, oh my god. So
it should have been in the set, but it isn't.
It should have been in the set. And that's why it's either incomplete. In other words, you shove that one out, and then you can't get a hold of that thing that you should be able to prove. Or you stick it in, and it's inconsistent because you have an unprovable thing in your set of provable things. Or you have a thing that's provable but not consistent with all the other stuff because you constructed it to be like that.
Yeah.
I think I've got that right.
Something like that.
Something
but,
like that.
It goes for the whole.
It's way more elegant than the way I described it.
A lot of ideas like this where, like what drew me to math and physics was this strong desire to know everything.
Yeah.
I want to understand the entire universe and all things, always, forever.
Right.
And it becomes this trick because, it's the observer is part of the system problem. And it's a similar type thing, right? Where you can't really get outside of all of math and be like, this is the bubble of all of math and it all is this nice package, because you're always missing a piece. There's always some part that's breaking it.
Yeah.
And that's the same with like anything you're trying to understand or pin down, because you're in there trying to do it, you're messing it up. Right?
Yeah, definitely that's the case in physics, right? Like that your observerness is fucking things up, or your scale.
That's another common misconception on what observer means, though, because a lot of people are like, the observer it only is there if you are looking at it. No, it's like if you have sent a photon to touch it, then it does the thing, right? Yeah, so it doesn't require the human consciousness, but it does require an interaction.
It's like it's the scale of detectable. It's almost like provable. It's not really that you saw it with your eyeball. It's the more abstract version of that, which is more analogous to like the provable thing.
To detect it, yeah.
It's like what can the system do and what can't the system do? And if you're in physics, what the system can't do is send a photon and have it not do a thing. Like it can't, all detectors that you could possibly have that would give you any data at all are going to involve an interaction, and that interaction will change the system. And so then you're cut off from...
You can't actually get the system without touching the system. But once you touch the system, it's not the same system.
So, and that's sort of similar with this idea, is that if you're constructing a thing using logic, then you can always construct a thing that's outside of it by using the similar logic. And that's not obvious at first because it feels so natural that if you're constructing things and you're drawing conclusions that you just keep on being able to do that until you do this elegant thing and find out that it doesn't work. And then the second proof that he does is to like generalize this to all axiomatic systems, also including like Turing systems, computers, things like that, because everything.
Yeah, math as we know it is not special. There's many ways you can make logic systems with axioms.
Axioms and make
they
it
can
do
probably
stuff.
A lot of times be mapped onto each other, but that's a whole other thing.
Like all of computing is based on that. So, and that's what leads to some really funky conclusions about this in computing, which I also find really suspect. But the idea is that he takes any axiomatic system and then makes an alphabet out of that, so that you can assign. He basically takes axiomatic systems and turns them into a numbered system, then treats that numbered system it feeds it back into his other proof in essence. He's like, if you have a numbered system, either incomplete or inconsistent, I just numbered all of axiomatic systems. guess what? You can't prove anything. It's done. Like you do the second result. Basically, recursiveness destroys axiomatic systems and makes them so that it can't prove its own consistency.
Yeah. And then some people will look at that and be like, oh, this must mean all of math is wrong. And it's like,
or this must mean humans are always going to be smarter than computers. Because humans don't have that limitation. Because you could never make an axiomatic system that would encompass consciousness.
Yeah, right.
Or could you? I mean, it's finite. There's like a certain number of actions that could happen given the neurons.
We got a finite number of neurons. And, okay.
There's only so many options.
Well,
There's
what about the
by an electrical
soul,
system.
Marylea? The soul is like in there doing shit.
Well, that would probably be inconsistent then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also like, is this the standard at which we're trying to understand these things? Because consistency, I mean, like logical certitude, I mean, it's also very easy to make it, like, the thing is, like, it's not the reverse. It's not that axiomatic systems are automatically all super consistent. You can totally very easily make an axiomatic system that's completely spitting out crap all the time just because you felt like
that
doing
would
that.
be.
Like, it wouldn't be useful, but it's not like you can expect some preternatural consistency out of a human or a computer. Like, they're gonna do what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I always like when people get like all like, oh, well, the math is, we can't know that anything is real, or we can't know that the science is blah blah blah, and it's like,
yeah, all this postmodern stuff.
It's as good as its predictive capabilities and its analogy to reality, right? Like, we know that Newton's laws work pretty well on our everyday scale.
Right.
Because you can freaking use them and they're consistent with reality. If I drop a ball, it falls at a certain rate.
Yeah, you're not gonna like exit the matrix, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you can tell if you drop it at a certain height, like when it will land and how fast it will be going at that time.
Incredible predictive power. And in fact,
we build off of this. Okay. And this general idea extends, and we send people to the moon. We have satellites in space. We have cell phones that function in our pockets, right? So that's why math and science are generally useful, because they are consistent with reality and let you make and do things and predict things.
And nothing that you're going to do in the moment is going to change the way you drop a ball. It's not going to land somewhere else just because you thought, oh, I now know Gödel's theorem. You are definitely not going to go over there. There's a definite possibility that it's not going to happen. No, that's not. Nope.
But I mean, and from the scientific standpoint, we know that the ball, every time we drop it, has fallen, but we have not proven that will always happen.
That's true.
We just know that, like, it's never not happened that way, so we're just going to go with the fact that that's what we expect.
And you doing it 10,000 times is going to yield the same result.
It's pretty good assumption that it's a good thing to go off of when you go about your daily life and you make your prediction.
Now, would we, and the reason that you don't know if that's always going to happen,
because you haven't done it every single infinite possible time that you ever could for all time.
And also because you haven't done it in every single place too. Like, we haven't done it. We live on the Earth. We haven't done it on the surface of a black hole. We haven't done it, here and there and everywhere, because we can't get there. And that's why these other parts of physics, like, are relevant, like at a black hole or wherever they would be. Now,
we take the physics that
in a particle accelerator
with the things we're able to observe, and then we apply it to other things, and when we can, we experimentally verify, and if we get a result that doesn't make sense, then we adapt the theory and try to come up with a way that encompasses all the things we already know happen and the new thing.
Well, and this is sort of why it's this sort of thing that makes it so that when you're doing mathematics, you all right, you know that you are going to be safe with what you're concluding within certain bounds of that system, but you're still not going to be able to say that that's the end of it, you know? So I guess what the fallout for this for me sort of is like, if you don't have this logical solid underpinning and you're taking mathematics as far as it can possibly go, like let's say on the surface of a black hole, and you're concluding from that that you are definitely the only thing that's going to be consistent is these little infinite strings that are super tiny. Like, how do you know for sure that that's just not a fallout of the mathematics that's completely inconsistent with everything else and really has no bearing on reality?
Well, I
Or
mean,
if
well,
this
yeah,
is
the
like,
analogy is like Newton's laws, right? So
yeah,
they work really well if you're dropping a ball, driving a car, anything you're basically doing in your everyday life. But they don't work once things start moving too fast or
yeah,
gravity gets
yeah,
too strong. They actually
yeah,
don't give you answers that are consistent with reality. So
yeah,
then you're like, oh,
we need something
well,
else.
we don't just completely throw out Newton's laws because they still work really well in the domains we were using them. We had to
But we
develop
need
a
better
new
math.
theory that will give us the same results in that domain, or very, very similar, like within error, results in that domain,
Mhm.
that additionally explain the weird phenomenon like, oh, time dilation and all that shit.
Right.
So,
So
yeah,
so you're saying like if we go up a level to relativity and we use the equations of relativity, when we slow down, we still get Newton's laws.
yeah.
But
I mean,
when
you
we
can
speed
use
up,
relativistic equations to describe the falling ball, and
yeah,
the answers you're going to get out to like many, 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 many decimal places are the exact same ones you'll get from Newton. So you might as
which
well use
is
Newton because they're easier.
yeah, at least when you're on the surface of the earth. Like
Yeah.
when you're like trying to calculate, well, I guess that's interesting because then you go to cosmology and you're like, I guess Kepler's laws work really well for orbiting planets up to a point, but
Sort of.
then, well, not really. Well, I guess then, yeah, all right. Yeah, I guess they're worse than Newton. They
But
just
yeah, I
they're
mean,
just like
that's a lot of how
ellipses.
science works. It's like we have this whole mathematical framework that gives us answers that are consistent with reality. Yay! But then we started extending what we were applying it to, and we got some shit that didn't match up. Well, it doesn't
Right.
mean we throw away everything else from before. It still works in the domain we were using it in, but we
Right.
need a new mathematical framework. And part of the issue with physics
Mhm.
now is like we've got really good theories that explain large and fast things, right? We've got general
Mhm.
relativity, special relativity do really well at predicting what happens in strong gravitational fields, what happens when
Right.
things are moving at quick speeds. And then we've got a separate theory called quantum mechanics that describes really well things that happen on the very, very tiny scale.
Mhm.
But relativity and quantum mechanics, they don't like once you start making things bigger, once you start making things like smaller, less gravity, you don't get like, oh, these theories are the same as each other and completely line up once you start going from one domain to the next. They don't. They just like different. Like this
Yeah.
works here and this works here. So the whole big thing in
Starts to
physics
bifurcate.
is there some theory behind all of that that looks like quantum mechanics in this domain and looks like relativity in this domain, but it's all
Right.
one beautiful, unique mathematical description that
Right.
explains it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So that's where that and that's the purpose of string theory, is to try and do that. To
mm-hmm.
try and get somewhere with that.
It's one of many,
And there's
many
others.
avenues people are taking to try to come up with a framework that describes all the things, not just this stuff really well or that stuff very well, but all of it together at once.
Right.
And
Well, and I guess
everyone's
the
interesting.
analogy in mathematics is like, look, just because you get this result all the way out, once you like completely try to boil it down to its absolute essentials, and are trying to do set theory with everything, yeah, then you get inconsistency and all of the stuff, and you're like, holy crap. But if you're trying to add, subtract, or multiply, you're still going to get the same result.
Things
It's
are
going to be
good.
totally fine.
Good there. Yeah.
It's going to be totally fine when you try to do your calculus exam. Nothing is going to happen to you that is going to result in something that's
My
not.
integral suddenly exploded, and now math is wrong.
It doesn't. Yeah, you're not going to like
It's
come
not
up
right.
with something no matter how you crank the system. Because because you have to be as smart as Godel and really like work it to get that result. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What do you think of all these other like fallouts of I mean, I think it's also interesting and very clever that like self-referential paradoxes,
Mm-hmm.
you get them to show up in mathematics, right? But what like they don't like self-referential paradoxes also don't like make language implode. I know you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about language
right.
at some point. So what does that
I got a
mean?
whole thing about
Like
language.
what about language and when we talk? Because we already knew that we could say shit like that. Like we didn't know we could say it in math. Like, is it just that we know that language is super inconsistent to begin with and we're not worried about it, or are we worried about it?
I
Like,
have this
are we
essay in
worried about the stuff we
progress
could
all
say?
about this, and
Oh
like it
yeah, I want
basically
to know.
starts with the idea that like you ever notice when people are arguing about something, like most of the time philosophical differences aren't that people actually disagree, but they're using different definitions of words.
Oh, semantics. You're getting into
Yes.
Wittgenstein
And it's
area.
because language is fuzzy. And so, like, here's an analogy. So, like, suppose you ask me to bring you an apple. So I bring you an apple made of concrete. You're
Ah,
disappointed because you wanted to eat it. So you tell me to bring an apple that is a fruit. So I bring
got
you
it.
a crab apple. You're again disappointed. You tell me to bring you a
Okay.
red delicious apple. So I bring you one, but it's completely rotten, right? So
Ah,
we have this idea of like, if you say, bring me an apple,
it's like
in most
the
contexts, we
Platonic
know what that
ideal.
means, but language is fuzzy enough that it could mean a shit ton of other things,
Yeah, if
right?
you point at the rotten apple and you say, "What's that?" Well, that's an
It's
apple.
an apple.
But it point to the concrete apple, you're like, "What's that?"
It's an
That's totally an
apple.
apple. Hmm.
Exactly. So language is fuzzy, and we only get like these like dialed in meanings from context,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of the thought there. Where did I go with this? The request to bring an apple is generally not elaborated upon in such context because even though it is imprecise, due to context, we generally understand what is meant, even though the words themselves are sort of fuzzy. And so I go on to talk about like gestalt stuff,
Ah, Gestalt.
interpolation,
Mhm.
computer and AI vision and how it has to distinguish a clump
Ooh,
of pixels and how hard that is
that
for
is super
it. And
difficult. That is super,
yeah,
super difficult. That's why all of those little CAPTCHA things are like, oh, humans can do this, computers have trouble
yeah,
because,
I don't know, man. I
but
come
not for
across a lot of
long.
captchas. I'm like, what is that?
I have a really hard time with them too. I'm like, oh god damn it, I'm a robot.
Guess I'm a robot. Yeah. Oh well. I mean, we're all going to be cyborgs one day, right? Have we had that conversation on here yet?
It would be
The
fun. No, we
our
haven't.
ultimate cyborg future.
Yeah, we're gonna be cyborgs. Are you
How we
signed
beat
up
this
already to
how
be
we
a
beat this
cyborg?
singularity by joining AI instead of letting AI rule us.
You're like,
Yes,
AI's not gonna rule us. We're gonna be the AI. So
exactly,
there.
exactly.
No one
Me
is
and
not.
ChatGPT, we're tight these days. We're pretty tight.
Like, why would we get left behind?
Yeah, exactly.
Even our dogs are gonna be cyborgs.
Exactly, right? So it's all good. It's all good. Anyway, I think we're coming to the end of our discussion for today. Do you have anything else to
Hooray!
add about your friend Kurt Gödel?
Oh, the only thing I have to add is that when you and I were at the Institute for Advanced Study, we totally walked the walk, and I was Kurt Gödel, and you were
And I
Albert
was
Einstein.
Einstein. Those were the days
Those were the
back when
days.
we were young and brilliant
Of
and not
course.
middle-aged moms.
That's right. Oh, well.
Uh, well, we'll sign off for now, so I'm going to stop the recording. But
Okay.
yeah, check out feralpolymaths.com if you want to read some blog rambles or see our videos or whatever the heck else we start putting on there one day.
That would be,
And
yeah, I have to start putting stuff on there because you have cool stuff.
yeah, I may have put stuff on there under your name
That's, oh, yes, of course I put
based
stuff
on
on
things
there.
you've said. But yeah, maybe
That,
I didn't put
I
stuff on
totally did
there.
that. Of
Yeah,
course I
that's how that
did.
works. Yep, yep, yep. It's all good. It's all good. But until
Yay.
next time, thank you
See
for
you guys.
listening. Bye.